So hello, who is here today? Diane is here. Well, she is not on the screen. Who else is here? Cannot really. Hello. Cannot hear. Yes. I need to. Yeah, everything is set up correctly. I cannot hear you. You're muted. You have to unmute yourself, Diane. Just unmute your microphone and you will be talking to me. Hi. Cannot hear you very well. Hello. Nice to meet you. I think you have to improve your volume a little bit. Just move it up because I cannot hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, it's better. It's getting better.
I have it on full blast.
That's great.
I had signed up too, but I couldn't get on for some reason yesterday.
That's okay. Sometimes it happens.
Drove over to my friend's house, who was so nice to say I could come.
That's good. That's nice. So where are you from, ladies?
Louisville, Kentucky.
Kentucky. Wow. I didn't think there would be people watching over from the USA. I'm in the middle of Europe right now.
Yeah, whereabouts?
So what's the time right now at your place?
1:30.
1:30 in the afternoon?
13:30.
That's nice. That's a good time. We'll wait a couple of more minutes. Someone is chatting here. I'm still working, so I'll be writing. I'm in Germany at the moment. Okay. Okay, no problem. Yeah, a couple of people are writing that they're working right now, so it's only again, but I'm listening. Someone is writing. I'm listening. Great. Great. I will keep talking. Talking. Great. So we will go on the presentation. Can we start, ladies? Are you ready? Ready? Great. I love that. Let me start. So you get the full picture. Let me, it's this technology is sometimes not working correctly. Oh, what's it up here? Okay, so we go to part 2 about the healing foods, basics. Do you know Hildegard von Bingen? Do you know her?
Yeah.
The saint? Yes?
Yeah.
How did you learn about her? Where did you hear about her?
Well, we volunteer at a place called Hildegard House in Louisville, Kentucky, where they care for patients at the end of their life.
Okay, that's wonderful.
And so Karen Cassidy, who is the director of the house, has been to Germany. She has given us a lot of information about Hildegard. We have her book, and we're just enamored with her research back from the 12th century that still is valid today. So
That's great.
The access to your newsletter.
That's great. Okay, so we will start. We will just go over the basics that we learned yesterday. We were talking about yesterday the food healing powers that are called subtilitas. And basically the subtilitas for us as a healthy people divide the food in the, I would say, 3 categories. In the neutral, that are kind of, you know, they don't have any healing powers for us. Then there are the foods, they are very positive and we gain a lot of energy from them. And there are also foods we'll be talking about today and they are negative. So they might have negative, they do have negative impacts on our bodies. As yesterday, we were talking about the inner juices, as I was telling you, just very briefly, so you understand when Hildegard is stating the inner juice in the text, so you're not mixed up in your head what she's talking about. Is basically she said that every person has 4 basic juices, 2 are bad and 2 are good. And if they stay in equilibrium, then we stay healthy. If one juice prevails because of other reasons, it can be food, it can be lifestyle, it can be anything, then we get sick. And yesterday we also talked about a very powerful food that she loves and she's known for, and that's spelt. Yeah, we talk about the good qualities of spelt, and basically that's one of the #1 healing foods, according to Hildegard, is the spelt in any form, eaten, baked, cooked, whatever. It's always good for a person to recharge his energies, to keep his body healthy, to kind of live a healthy life. It makes also a very happy mind. We were talking about it yesterday. And it really supports our blood. So it cleans our blood and keeps our juices in control, in equilibrium. All is from the book Physica. And I promise you to bring the books today. Oh my goodness. I also had to move to a different room again, and I forgot them downstairs. No, never mind. I will just, when I will do the, I'll bring them tomorrow. Sorry for that. I wanted to show you the originals, how thick the original is and how thin is the English translation. Never mind, we'll just continue with the healing foods today. And I want to talk about an interesting topic, and it's about salt, because we use it every day. And in a book Physica, you will find this description. Salt is very hot and somewhat moist and useful for many human applications. If a man eats food without salt, it makes him like warm inside. But if he eats food mixed with salt, the food makes him strong and heals him. But if a man eats food that is too salty, it makes him dry inside and harms him. And then the salt falls over the lungs like sand and dries out the lungs because the lungs seek moisture, and so it harms and steams the lungs. So this is wonderful. We will go over the first part and we will make the second part. What she is really saying that salt has a lot of energy and is very hot for us. It's also moist, and we can use it in many ways in our lives. And as we are using it for food. We put it on the snow. We cook with it. We can conserve fish, whatever. We can preserve the fish. We can do many things with the salt. Also, animals need salt. But as she's saying, it's no good for a person to eat food that is not being salted. Yeah. And if the food is being salted correctly, it will make the salt will support us and will heal us and will make us strong. But if we use too much, it will hurt our lungs, as it's written in here. Then the salt falls over the lungs and will dry them out because it seeks moisture. So it harms the lungs usually. So if you have, for example, a person that is usually has some kind of heart issue, he or she will also probably have the lungs problems, and that's why maybe the doctors are saying, like, just be careful of the salt. So we will learn today how to salt correctly and how to use it correctly, according to Hildegard. We go on the second part. And if it then also falls over the liver, we are talking about the salt, it harms it a little, even though the liver is strong and even though it can cope with the salt. Therefore, every food must be salted in such a way that the food has more of its own taste rather than the salt being tracked. So here is a wonderful description for us humans, how we should use the salt. So every time you are basically putting a salt in your food, I recommend you to do it during the cooking process. Because when you do it during the cooking process, the salt will kind of enter the food naturally. And of course, you have to have a feeling for not putting too much salt in your food. So as she is saying, you should taste the thing that you are eating. For example, if you cooked a soup, you should taste the carrot, but aftertaste, the very slight one can be the salty one, but the salt cannot stand out in its own taste. Like, okay, the extreme, I would say, would be maybe the Pringles or some salty snacks where you can really feel the salt on the top of it. So this is not a correct usage of salt. Because also understand, for example, Chinese, explain it, I haven't studied Chinese so much, but a little bit about the food because it was interesting for me. But when you kind of look at it their way, they are saying about the salt is very young. And on the other side, you have a sugar, is very yin. And if you take like a small child and the child gets something very salty, then automatically after eating something very, very salty, the kid will reach after something very sweet just to keep the equilibrium, just to level it out. And you will see this process in little kids because they still possess the natural kind of feeling for keeping the energies inside them. If you start to clean or if you start to eat in a very clean way, like I would say very natural food, no processed food, you will regain this feeling again, but it's very hard for us adults to see this process. I tested it with my little with my little daughter when she was like 3, 4 years old, and it was every time it was working this way, as the Chinese said. If you go to the extreme, if you go to very salty food, then afterwards you will want to equal yourself out and you will go after the very, very sweet ones. So that's why it's good to not to salt basically too much. Okay, and now we are going to talk about which salt is the best one. As she writes in a physical book, salt dried over fire is healthier than raw salt because the moisture that was in it has dried up, and if a man eats it with bread or with any other food in masses, it's good and healthy for him. However, white salt has greater values than other salt and a certain moistness, and it's useful for man's use and for all medicines, so that if a little bit of it is given to them, they will be able to take it. And so it's more valuable than other salt, as spices surpass other herbs. And if a man eats a little of the salt with any food or with bread and not without another seasoning, it strengthens and heals him and also helps his lungs. But if he eats salt without moderation, it makes the lungs in him wither and damages them. Well, after reading this, you see the first part, that the salt dried over fire is healthier than raw salt. To tell you honestly, there is only one salt on this earth, and it's the salt from the sea. And there are basically two ways how we can get our salt. It's one from the sea, so they collect the seawater, they evaporate the extra water and get the sea salt. And the other type of the salt is the old salt being stored in our basically earth someplace. There are many places where the salt is being taken out of the earth. In many years ago, about 7 or 8, I contacted a company that was producing salt in Austria, because we don't have a factory right now in Slovakia that is producing salt. And I talked to the lady how they are doing it these days. And she told me they are not mining the salt like with machines. What they do, they dig a hole and they put a water into this hole, and they wait until the moment the salt will basically dissolve in this water, and they will pump the water out with the salt, and then they will basically, so to say, cook it, evaporate the same thing, evaporate the water and basically heat up the salt. When I was watching a very interesting movie about Marco Polo, they were showing in this movie an old tradition in China, how they were cleaning the salt. They brought the salt in, they put the water in there, they put it over the fire, and they were basically also evaporating the water out of the salt. So from my point of view, as I see it, the salt that is in the earth is a little bit healthier than the one that is in the sea, because there is this process of evaporation, and they are heating it up basically just to evaporate the water. So for me also, it's the salt from the earth is cleaner since it's million years old. So there was no pollution at that time as compared to today's seawater and maybe also sea salt. I don't know. I've never seen I would say a report on some kind of, the sea salt being dirty or something. I don't know, but I really like the salt from the earth more than the sea salt, even though sometimes I use both. Depends what they have in the store. If you are buying a salt, just be careful not to have additive chemicals in it. Like, of course, you have there is a they sometimes put a fluor inside the salt that I don't like, but they also put a iodine. Iodine is okay, but sometimes they put a chemical that prevents the salt to basically, when it gets moist, to be like a one stone-like thing. So just watch the packaging and get the best salt you can get at your place. So, and she's basically saying, Hildegard, that this salt that is being dried over fire is healthier than the raw salt that we get from the sea. But if we eat it in moderation and we cook with it the right way, we'll really gain all the good energy that she's talking about. It will keep us strong and healthy, as she's saying. So this is what I really love about her. And sometimes it's good to cut on the salt consumption just a little bit, just to see how it feels, or what's your perception of the food when you put less salt as you usually put. That's sometimes good to test what type of flavor you will have on your tongue. So it's good just to test how it feels in order to figure out how much salt you actually use. And also, if after the big meal that can be salty, you reach for the sweet stuff, you know that it's from the, as I was saying before, it's from the Chinese, that your body is trying to level out. So you go from the yang energy of salty to the yin energy of the sweet. So just cut on a little bit on the salt consumption, and maybe you will crave less for sweets after a salty meal. So that's all to the salt. And we will move on to the very interesting vegetable. It's leek. It's one of the, I would say, the ones with negative attributions, but we will go through it. It's very interesting. So in the book Physica, you will read, leek contains a blazing, quick, and useless heat like worthless wood or shavings, which burns quickly and quickly collapses in the fire, and it troubles men with lust. Eaten raw, it is as bad and repugnant to man as a poisonous and useless herb, because it puts the blood and putrefactive products and human juices into an unpleasant heat or flush, so that the blood in humans doesn't grow properly because of it, and the putrefaction in human because of the leek is not diminished, and the bad juices are not purified. So you can, from the beginning, we can read that its energy, the first sentence, it's really like blazing, it's quick, it's basically useless for us. Yeah, and she makes the comparison to something what we can relate to, which burns quickly and quickly collapses in a fire. And when we eat, the second paragraph is, when we eat it raw, yes, it is basically a poison for our body, because it basically brings our juices into an unpleasant heat. and the blood doesn't grow properly from leek. So this type of vegetable is not good for us. But what she writes further, but whoever wants to eat raw leeks should first pickle them in wine and salt or in vinegar, leaving them in wine and salt or in vinegar until they become so weak that they have lost their evil powers. That is, from morning to midday or from evening to morning, and so moderated it's good to eat for healthy people. So again, we see here, I would say, the recipe that if someone really loves the leek, what he should do, you know, you can leave it. So I would just take the whole, if you love to eat the leek, I would cut it in half and I will just leave it in wine or in a vinegar just to pour over it, and let it there overnight, as she says, from morning to midday or from evening to morning. And after that, I will take it out. And under that condition, if I would be healthy, I would eat it. If there is someone who is sick, who has any type of physical problem, mental problem, that is the person that shouldn't eat leek because the inner juices are not in balance. Let's move on. Another one, leek 2. And now she writes an interesting thing. For the sick, however, it's not suitable for eating, either raw or boiled, because their blood has no real warmth and their putrefactive products are churned up and their juice is foamy. Therefore, when a sick leek eats, it churns all this up inside itself. For the sick, it's good neither raw nor cooked, but if some sick people have a great appetite for it. So you see, she doesn't recommend the leek to be eaten by sick people because it just does not good to their blood. And as she's writing, the blood of the sick people is lacking the warmth that they need to kind of, clean, for the bloods to be clean and equilibrium as we need it to be when we are healthy. So remember, leek is not really, from all this, leek is not really good for us to eat, nor for sick, nor for healthy people. But if a healthy person wants to eat leek, then he should just put it in the vinegar or with the white wine, just to leave it there. And after this purification process, he can kind of eat it if he or she wants. So this is to, I would say, summarize this part. We'll move on further. We will talk about the favorite beans. In the book Physica, we can read, the bean is warm for healthy and strong people to eat well and better than the pea, because when sick eat beans, they don't harm them much because they don't cause as much putrefaction and mucus in them as the pea does. It's a wonderful description of the bean. First, we see that she writes, the bean is warm for healthy and strong people to eat. So it's the description of their energy. The bean is warm. It's good for healthy and strong people. And it's better than the pea because when sick eat beans, they don't harm them much because they don't cause as much putrefaction and mucus in them as the pea. So we know from this description that the pea is not really good for the unhealthy people to eat because they cause mucus inside the bodies. So if I were sick, I would take the beans instead of the pea. That's, I would say, the conclusion out of it. But bean flour is good and useful for both a sick and a healthy person because it's mild and easy digested. Bean flour, I haven't seen it on the market very often. Sometimes I see it. There is a flour out of chickpeas very often, but the bean flour, I must admit, I haven't seen it yet, especially here in Slovakia. But I can imagine that you can maybe use it in your cooking or create some kind of vegan hamburgers with it, just to use it to kind of, instead of a flour. I would say it's a good thing to try out if you have a chance to kind of buy a bean flour. But the next paragraph, last one. But whoever has ailments of the inner organs, viscera, should boil beans in water, add a little lard or oil, strain the beans and sip the rest of it hot. He should do this often, and it heals him internally, because the bean broth helps the pain of the inner organs, viscera. Added lard and oil also dissolve the pain so that it diminishes. So what she's saying, actually, it's a wonderful recipe how you can feed your family. If you have someone who has, like, inside his body, so inside his belly, there are the inner organs, he has pain, you can cook for the whole family a nice bean soup. But what you do for this person, he will just enjoy the water where the beans were cooked together with the other vegetables as his soup. He will not get the beans and he will not get the rest. And the rest of the family can get a regular bean soup. My youngest one, she loves the bean soup out of this huge white beans, and she just loves it. And sometimes it happens that I'm left only with the water and carrots, nothing more, because she eats them all. But she doesn't, she's a healthy person, but she just loves the beans all the times. So I'm usually left with the water, with the bean soup, with lard, according to Hildegard as she is writing. So that's the funny thing. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. Lemons. This was an interesting thing because I was looking up the lemons in a Physica book. And I must say there is no description about the fruit. There's only the description of the lemon tree. So let's go into it. The lemon tree, where the lemons grows, is more warm than cold and signifies chastity. A man who has a daily fever should boil the leaves of this tree in wine, strain the wine through a cloth, and drink it often, and he will be cured. So this is a very interesting recipe, or I would say a recipe for, for a drink. If someone has a daily fever, meaning that the temperature is elevated, but there is no cause written in here. So he should take the leaves of the trees and boil it in wine. So it's like really cooking an elixir, but you don't, it's interesting with Hildegard that you never have the portions. So you never know how much you should take, how much wine you should take, and how much leaves you would take. So from my own experience, I would take maybe 3, 4, 5 big leaves, and the wine amount would be around, I don't know, maybe 1 big cup, and just boil it, strain it, and just drink it often. It's not written here that the elixir should be warm when you drink it. So if she doesn't write it, then it can be enjoyed just cold as it is. So, but I don't think a lot of people do have lemon trees at home. Their places. I used to plant them, the lemon trees. I used to have 3 big ones. I didn't know at the time about the Hildegard recipe. And I know they are beautiful, and the leaves basically are very thick. Those are very green, nice, thick leaves, and they really smell like lemons also. They do have some kind of things inside are those leaves that really smell like lemons. But we will go on the lemons itself in the last paragraph. But also the fruits of this tree, when eaten, suppress fever in humans because of their good heat and good powers. For the warmth of this tree, mixed with the increased warmth of the wine, enchants the various juices of the fevers. This is a beautiful, I would say, description also about the fruit, about the lemon itself. When it's eaten, it will suppress the fevers because of the good heat and good powers. So I would say when you look at the modern medicine, You will find the information about the lemons. So they do have a lot of vitamin C that helps the human body to fight the infections. So for me, this is incredible that a lady in 12th century writes a sentence and writes the cause why the lemons are helping human bodies to fight basically the fevers. So for me, it's unbelievable that she wrote something like this in the 12th century. She really wrote about the mechanism, how the lemon works in our body. So it's beautiful. I just love it, I must say. So, okay, we'll move on to the next slide. It's about the squash. And you will find in book Physica that pumpkins are dry and cold and grow from the air and are good to eat for sick and healthy and don't multiply the bad juices in people. This is also a wonderful description of all the type of squash that you can find, or pumpkin, on this earth. It's basically the subtilitas, the inner healing power. So also sick, also healthy people can eat it with no problem, because if the squash or the pumpkin will not multiply the bad juices in a person. It will just, it's cold and it's dry. So if someone has a running nose, that person is basically has a lot of mucus. So it will help him to level out that energy. But it's cold, meaning that if someone is weak, those people are usually cold, or the sick ones are usually cold. It won't hurt them because it doesn't bring bad juices, but its nature is just cold. And that's it. Cucumber is the last one from book Physica. Cucumbers are damp and cold and grow from the moisture of the earth and set in motion the bitterness of the juices in people and are not good for sick people to eat. So you see, here's a description, very clear in terms of energy. The cucumber is damp and cold. Damp meaning, it just brings a lot of moist inside. If someone is damp and having mucus inside, like sinuses or something, he should not use cucumber to eat. And it's also cold. But the bad fact about cucumber is, as she's writing, it sets in motion the bitterness of the juices. So it's not keeping the equilibrium of our juices. It's basically just, disturbing this equilibrium. And that's what we don't want. You can, if you are healthy, you can level out this energy a little bit of the cucumber, but it will still be there. You can do it with vinegar, with a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit of oil, but still, the cucumber will stay the way it is. So if you are sick, just please don't eat cucumbers. It will not bring you any good thing into your body. So this is it to cucumber. And that is all for today. Thank you for your attention today. Do you have any questions? Are there any questions? Is someone in chat? I'm writing to the just answer that. Yes?
I don't have any questions, but that was very interesting.
I cannot hear you very well. I think you have to go closer to the microphone, please.
I said I don't have any questions, but I found that to be very interesting.
You found it very interesting. So at least like a screening what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat. I think it's very interesting to know about the healing powers that are hidden in these foods, and you can apply it in your life. And you can omit cucumbers. Okay, eating one cucumber in long time. If you want to eat it during the summer when it's very hot, you might not feel well maybe afterwards, but you can make it, if you're not very sick. But otherwise, if you are sick, if you're not healthy, I won't recommend it to eat. Also for cold people, some women are very cold, like having always cold feet, cold hands, not lacking the energy and so on and so forth. So there is better food for such a woman to eat than the cold cucumber. It's just the way it is, It's just the energy you take in, and your body has to deal with it. And Hildegard really has a beautiful description how it works and the mechanism, what is it doing to us. So I cannot hear you. You have to unmute yourself, please, Diane. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Balance a damp, cold food like a cucumber with a warm, like salt, like you put salt on your cucumber.
Yeah, you can treat it. You can treat it with vinegar. You can make this mix vinegar. Well, I usually boil water with vinegar, add a little bit of salt, and when it's hot, I pour it over the cucumbers. They are being sliced, because it's a cucumber salad that my son really loves. So I usually have just a little bit of it from it, and he will have the rest because he is a young person having a lot of energy and he just loves it. So I don't do it very often with cucumbers, but sometimes in the summertime I do it. He just, he just enjoys it. And it's always, you have to eat the heating factor to it, just to a little bit level it out. But if someone is really very sick, he might get hurt from it, like an old, and not healthy person can feel kind of like his stomach is too heavy after eating the cucumbers, because the juices, as she said, as she wrote there, it just, it's just kicking the juices inside. And the younger you are, the more your body can process and deal with these issues. And the older you get, of course, the body gets older, and it's then not that easy for the body to handle this. So you can try, but it's individual, because there are also constitutional types according to Hildegard, but it's a different topic. We won't go into that if it's too difficult. It's just the constitution is it's a very difficult topic with Hildegard. So okay, ladies.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So for today, have a great afternoon. Enjoy.
You too.
And send the video recording when it's all processed. And have a great time in Kentucky. See you tomorrow if you make.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.